short attention spans is not the reason people are not watching your video. See, we can try and blame short attention spans, TikTok brain, the algorithm. We can blame all of these things for people not watching. But if that was true, things like podcasts wouldn't be as popular as they are, and you wouldn't have binge watched the Diddy documentary in one weekend. The issue isn't how long your content is or your viewers having some kind of inability to focus for that length of time. It's about how much information you're expecting your viewer to process at once. That is cognitive load, and that's what we're going to talk about in this video. Think of it like this. Weird analogy, but stay with me here. Imagine you're trying to smash a 6-pack of beers. You don't want to spill anything. You want to take it all in. So the best way to do that, one bottle at a time, one after the other, until you get to the end. Our brains and the brains of your viewers works exactly the same way. When information is delivered in a clear sequence, it's easier to follow. But if you've got multiple ideas coming in at the same time, the brain gets overloaded. And if your viewer gets overloaded, confused, or bored, you've lost them. You might be looking at your content right now and the initial views and clicks are good, so your hooks might be doing a pretty decent job, but for some reason people keep dropping off. That highlights that there's not a lack of interest in the problem that you're talking about. People clicked. They want to know about the thing you're talking about. The problem is clarity. Now, don't equate clarity with density. Simply packing more and more information into the content, that's not the solution here. It's about how you lay the information out. When you're creating content on something, you know everything about it. You know the context, the nuances, you know how everything plugs in. But you can't assume that your target viewer already has all of that knowledge. If they did, why would they bother clicking on your video in the first place? If someone clicked on your video on YouTube, that means that your title, your thumbnail, maybe even the hook, that set an expectation that the problem that that video presented is going to be solved in that content. But if you just make assumptions that they know how all of this fits together and you don't think about the best layout for that information, they're gonna go. The viewer doesn't know what they don't know. That's why they're watching your content. They need answers. If they have to expend too much cognitive energy in trying to figure these things out, they're just going to move on to someone else who can explain it in a clearer way. The harder the viewer has to think when they're watching your content, the harder you have to work to retain them. The ultimate goal of a piece of content should be to get the viewer watching right to the end and feel satisfied that they got the value they were looking for. The way to do this is to not force them to think more. It's to make thinking as unnecessary as possible because you're laying out everything and making it clear. You want the viewer to get to the end of your video and retain the information that they learnt, because that's how they assign value to that content. And value is obviously important because if you deliver valuable content, they're going to keep coming back. See, the value of a piece of content is not how much information is just crammed into it. It's measured by how effectively it solved the viewer's problem. The key balance you need to strike is low effort during consumption of the content and high retention at the end, or value recognition at the end. You can only strike that balance if the information is laid out in the right way. This is why layering multiple topics into one video is a really risky move. Even if the topics are related, every new topic means increased cognitive load for that viewer. For example, I could have talked about cognitive load in the video that I made about the Zeigarnik effect. Both topics are related enough where it would make sense to talk about that in one video. But I didn't. Whoever clicked on that video was there because they're interested in the topic of the Zeigarnik effect. The Zeigarnik effect is the solution to the problem that was presented in that title and thumbnail. Whoever clicked on that video decided it was worth their time. They might be watching while they're on the train, while they're doom scrolling at work or taking a shit. Doesn't matter. Whatever they're doing, they've decided to invest time into that piece of content. Now, if I tried hard enough, I probably could have made a decent video covering both topics, but there's two sort of decisions that I have to make. Do I make the video shorter and give less time to each topic, or do I make it much longer and give detailed explanations to both? Both of these strategies can work, but there's a trade-off to each. If I make the video shorter, retention could be easier to maintain. See, the truth is attention spans are shorter than they used to be. Social media is also way more competitive, and on the surface, 2 topics covered in one video seems like more value than just one. But in a shorter video, there's only so much detail that I can get into. If that viewer is more interested in learning about the Zeigarnik effect, and I'm only giving them top-level detail, they might click onto another video from someone else who goes into more detail, and now I'm back to square one. So what if I made one way longer video that goes into a detailed explanation on both of those topics? Well, now I have the opposite problem. The video is now longer, so it's going to take a lot more work to keep that viewer engaged for the full amount of time. That longer video becomes harder to structure, and the cognitive load can increase for the viewer because I'm asking them to keep track of 2 ideas now instead of 1. Now, there's a time and a place for both of these strategies, but from my personal perspective and from a strategic perspective, I would rather make 1 video for each topic because I want to minimize the likelihood that while you're watching this video, you click away to go do something else. I believe it's better to make 1 good video that goes into detail on 1 topic, and if that viewer has more time to spend, they can go watch another one of my videos that goes into the next topic. This isn't holding information back from the viewer, it's the opposite. It's delivering more value to them. You should be creating as much content as possible that solves all the problems and explains all the topics that your target viewer is interested in. But that doesn't mean that all of that information should be crammed into 1 piece of content. If you execute things the right way, your viewer could go on a binge session and watch all of the content that you have. So the solution isn't things like talking faster or adding crazy graphics and engagement hooks all the time. It's about laying out the information in a way that's easy to follow. The viewer should feel like they're being guided. They shouldn't have to sort through ideas because your content should be doing that for them. And one of the most important aspects of your content to help with this is the edit. And in this video, I break down the exact kind of editing that helps reduce cognitive load and keep people watching.